Hello, true believers, and welcome to another edition of Ranking Spankings, our series where we tier list the living crap out of a popular entertainment property, whether it be a band's discography, a video game franchise, or in this case, the movies featuring everyone's favorite web slinger, Spider-Man. My name is Tom, and I am joined by my very good Marvel friend, Drew. How you doing, Drew?
That sounded very sarcastic.
I know, I didn't mean to. I just kind of lost my way with my sentence.
Yeah, it's definitely like the way parents describe things, you know what I mean?
He's my very good friend.
Very good special boy. He's very talented. Yeah. He's very unique, Andrew. But yeah.
Now I know your dad's left, but I've got a very special friend here. He's going to be staying the night every now and then. But if you want to call him dad, it's fine.
If you hear mummy making noises like she's hurt, it's okay. That's fucking
bad cursed. Life advice. Bad life advice.
Never do this and never explain it that way.
That's why Uncle Ben got killed. Anyway.
Oh my god. Aunt May, what's wrong?
Anyway.
I don't want to think of that. Marissa Tomei.
I can't even remember the actress from the first one.
No, please don't make me think of that.
Anyway, to give yourself some good mental bleach, we are the fellas from Upside Down Shark. You can find us at upsidedownshark.com. We don't just talk about movies, we talk about a whole bunch of stuff. But on this video, YouTube channel, should I say, it's mainly movies and TV. If you fancy video games, go to UDS Games. And if you fancy music, UDS Music. Nice and easy to remember. And let us know what your favorite Spider-Man film is in the comments below, because engagement is good for you, it's good for us, and that way Uncle Ben doesn't die. Anyway,
Dom, don't you know the best way to motivate them is to say, tell us why our Spider-Man favorites are wrong and why yours are or that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. That always good to start on a negative. People love to get angry, but anyway.
Exactly. Tom, I'm so sorry. I was terribly rude. How are you?
I'm very all the better for speaking to you, and I'm looking forward to talking about Spider-Man. As I'm sure many people will be aware, the trailer for the new Spider-Man movie, which I believe is subtitled No Way Home, dropped a couple of weeks ago, time of recording. And people are real hyped for their next dose of Tom Holland Spidey, particularly with everyone's favorite Alfred Molina. Rejoining the cast.
The promise of Tobey Maguire returning to cry in front of our screens again.
Absolutely. Who doesn't like seeing angry, sad, prissy Tobey Maguire? But yeah, given that
honestly, you could describe Andrew Garfield as angry, sad, and prissy as well.
This is true, but he's a bit more. I feel like he's got a little bit more of a cool factor, but in a douchey way. So
I see what you mean.
Which may very much influence the ratings going forward. But given that there's a definite crossover teased of all of the eras of Spider-Man, we thought we would review all of them in sort of a big collective pool and see which ones are good, which ones are bad, and which ones are just okay. But just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. We are only going to talk about the cinematic Spider-Man movies, so you won't see Italian Spider-Man. If there was, then he would have a category all of himself above very good, very good. It would be transcendently good, but it's not fair on the others, so we left it out. So
do you think they're going to put a reference to him in the No Way Home multiverse?
No, they're not going to put in Italian Spider-Man.
They are almost like cringingly aware of like memes and fan base in MCU. Like when they did that first reveal trailer of the name of No Way Home, where they had the whiteboard with all of the people guessing which home it was going to be, like Home Run and Homecoming and all this kind of stuff. And that's like the level of awareness they have. Someone in Marvel must have lobbied, and I hope it's Tom Holland, because he's young and sprightly. He's full of the 21st century humor. It's like, look it's awful. I love it. I reckon he lobbied to put Italian Spider-Man because like in Spider-Verse they had the Spider-Man pointing meme as well.
They did, but I feel like that was still a Spider-Man IP, whereas Italian Spider-Man is massively in the around. Well, I suppose it's still kind of fair use, but it's not licensed. And also, I feel like if it was going to happen, Tom Holland would have leaked it by now. So yeah,
that is very true.
Yeah.
So no Italian Spider-Man.
No Italian Spider-Man. I don't know if there's any other big animated like feature lengths, but this is only Spider-Man solo movie, so you won't see any Avengers or Captain America Civil War. It's just the original Tobey Maguire trilogy, the two Garfield ones, and the two current Tom Holland ones, and of course Into the Spiderverse got a cinematic release, so it counts in this list. So
sorry, you won't have Donald Glover, Miles Morales TV show Spider-Man on this list. I'm sorry. I know that's a really big thing for the internet. They really like that guy. But yeah. We'll get Miles representation on here, don't worry.
Well, we will. Come hell or high water. Well, let's start at the beginning. In a little year I like to call 2002.
We all like to call it that, Tom.
With Spider-Man. This was the very first feature-length Spider-Man movie set in the live action. I don't think there was any like trashy 70s ones, but if there was, I'm sure someone will correct me when they get in the comments. But yeah, so there
was I remember reading about this very, very long development process to try and get any Spider-Man movies off the ground. Just because for it not to look like crap takes quite a lot, and CGI needed to catch up because, well, you've seen how bad it can be. If it's just a guy on a rope just going like he's Tarzan,
Italian Spider-Man
garbage. So they spent ages trying to figure out who should do it, how they do it, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's the first live action one.
Yeah, and I mean, it was the first of sort of, what I would sort of consider perhaps the modern Marvel movies, because we had Blade in the late 90s, and we did have X-Men, I guess, but of sort of, the A-list solo heroes, this is the first big one that I can think of. And it's a pretty by the numbers Spider-Man story. You've got the origin story, you've got the Uncle Ben getting killed, you've got Green Goblin, one of the most iconic villains, and you've got all the other
side people.
You got Flash. Flash is in there. You got Harry Osborn, played by a very young James Franco. And
honestly, so good.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best cast Spider-Man movies of the lot, really, because you've got Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin, Norman Osborn. Fantastic. To my shame, I can't remember the actress who plays Aunt May, but she looks exactly like she does in the comic books.
Yeah, creepily so. And she sounds like I read her in my head.
Exactly, absolutely. I mean? And that's all without mentioning J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, which, I mean, there's a reason they brought him back into other continuities, because he is J. Jonah Jameson, like, to a T. The voice, the I know it was a wig, but he just has the look down. And I think it's a really strong start to a really strong trilogy. I think you've got a good balance of heart with the family ties that Peter has to either see broken or reforge. You've got a relatable villain in a sense, in that he's not outrageously evil. He is a good person that just makes a mistake, and by the end he's ashamed of his actions to the point where he says, don't tell Harry, his son, of what's gone on, when he sort of comes to knows that he's done for. The only thing is that I think Tobey Maguire is a much better Peter Parker than he is a Spider-Man.
He definitely had I got a sense so strongly of his keep smiling through all the struggles as Peter Parker, like the endless financial troubles he has, girl troubles, trying to balance his life. What really sort of struck Spider-Man apart from all of the other brooding 2000s superheroes like Daredevil and Wolverine and all that kind of stuff was, at the end of the day, he came through it with like a, all right, we're gonna get through it. Almost cheesy, but still, felt so genuine that he would just be like, everything fucking sucks, everybody's dying around me, but I'm just gonna keep going, I'm gonna keep smiling, which he did amazingly. But I never liked the way he told jokes. to be fair, they always had a really curious comedic style, the Sam Raimi ones, where it was very old timey. They like they were reading from the pages of like an old comic, an action comic from like the 40s or 50s. The little one-liners that they whip back with would always be very, very cheesy. And so like, yeah, I never really kind of laughed at what he said. And he never kind of had that sort of easygoing attitude. It was all very, very serious. I think the fact that he never let up or never seemed to have fun doing what he did was what held him back there. Because he would do the little woohoo and he flew around and everything like that, but it never had kind of anything lighthearted about it. But
yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think the Sam Raimi direction is intentional, because I remember reading an interview that he did around the time, I think it's before Spider-Man 3 came out, where he said because the people have been clamoring for Venom to be featured for the longest time. People love them some symbiote. Yeah, and he was really reluctant because he wanted to feature the original run of supervillains. He didn't want to do anything from sort of the latter stages, because I think Venom came in, it might have been as late as the late 90s, the early 90s, should I say, late 80s, early 90s, not the sort of the original 60s, 70s run of Spider-Man. So yeah, I think that humor definitely pervades through in what we see. It's or I say should say the script pervades through like that. But love me some Bonesaw, love me some Macho Man Randy Savage. Underrated star of that scene as well, Bruce Campbell as the ring announcer. Bruce Campbell has a little cameo in every Raimi Spider-Man film, which is always good to see. You love to see it.
And I wouldn't call it a cameo because she hustled before she got famous. Octavia Spencer as the lady who takes his, I'm 90% sure it's Octavia Spencer who takes his ticket and does the like, God have mercy on your soul.
I think
when she sends him into the ring. I went down a massive rabbit hole one day of realizing that before The Help, Octavia Spencer had just been doing really, really memorable scenes, but I just never placed her as a named actor in things like Bad Santa. Looked back, she was in Spider-Man, laughing my ass off at that line as well. And she just suddenly got famous out of nowhere after like 20 years of doing like one-note roles. Anyway, there's a side thing.
No, that's good. That's a sign of a good supporting actor if you can sort of, fall into the role without sort of becoming sort of famous for being an actor rather than sort of making the character memorable. So I
to Octavia Spencer.
Completely missed that she was in that, but it's
been a while since I've last rewatched that, because I tend to. It's a shame because we are giving it a lot of praise. It is perfect. It just happens to be that Spider-Man 2 came after it. And
that's the thing. It's definitely the second best of the Spider-Man Raimi trilogy. Sorry, my brain stopped working there. I have a lot of time for this film. I think it's not perfect. I think, as you say, it's an acquired taste, the amount of cheese that's in it. And even from 2002 to now, I think it's aged. Not necessarily a bad thing. Not aged in that, this film is cancelled, but in terms of that this is very much a product of its time. But I still think it has a charm because of that as well. It's gonna loop back around, isn't it? Where it'll be very, very relevant and for its time, and then go out of fashion, will be a cringy, and then it'll come back in, and people will look back on it with nostalgic charm. And I think we're into that era now. People are going to start listening to Chad Kroger's Hero again before you know it. Let me tell you.
Oh my goodness me, that song. You've just given me some real big flashbacks there. When you associate and you go on a ripple of like associations, and you launched me back, sat on a couch watching Kerrang.
He's taken a walk through several carriages on the memory lane. But
that's awful. I don't like it. Bring me back.
Anyway,
but that is a solid film. So where are we going to put that?
I think it's a solid B, to be honest.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say A.
No, I think given there are some shortcomings, as I say. I don't think every character lands. I think the love interest between Peter and Mary Jane isn't the best.
I forgot about her. I'd say she's just the weakest character in the whole
I feel
trilogy.
It's quite telling that neither of us had mentioned her up until this point.
Yeah.
And so I think that brings it down just a peg. And I think there's always going to be an element that origin stories are always going to be hampered by the fact that they have to jump through these hoops.
Yep. They got to go through the motions, even though you know everything. You got to see the Waynes die, and you've got to see Uncle Ben die. Yeah. Maybe that hit the first time around, but it doesn't really. No.
I think it's a high B, but I think it's still
put it in a B.
Let's put it high B. We can move it around if we want to.
Let's do B.
Then we jump forward a couple of years to 2004, Spider-Man 2. Oh boy, talk about getting it right on the second album. This film is everything that was good about Spider-Man 1 turned up to 11. You've got a better, more captivating villain. You talk about villains that are sympathetic or have, a moral compass that just goes a bit awry. Alfred Molina's Dr. Octavius is very much that. You've got Peter with a lot of character development after seeing, Mary Jane go off with I can't remember the astronaut guy, but
J. Jonah Jameson's son.
Yeah. What's his name?
Christ, I've forgotten his name.
But anyway,
they were teasing him for the symbiote at first, weren't they?
And I think because him going to space was kind of going to bring it back, I think, at one point.
Yeah, and that would be like a cool villain for Peter to face, the ex-fiance of Mary Jane. I maybe would have preferred that, but then we would have been denied Topher Grace.
Oh, we'll get to Mr. Grace.
We'll get to him. But I think it's kind of a cliche to say people that Spider-Man 2 is a perfect superhero film. A lot of people don't really stretch to say that it's a perfect movie full stop, just because there's always going to be some people that just don't generally like that kind of thing. But Spider-Man 2, as far as it goes, by every metric, is pretty much perfect. There's not much in the way of things that you can detract from. I do personally find it really, really tiresome, the Mary Jane subplot. With her getting about to get married to the astronaut, and tend to sort of fast forward those scenes if I'm going to rewatch it, just to get to the core story of Peter and Dr. Octopus, which is absolutely flawless in every single way. The acting between two characters, the chemistry they have is amazing. Alfred Molina is incredible, so nuanced in playing it, and props to them as well, because you said before about how that was Spider-Man 1 was kind of ushering in this era of, good superhero movies and good Marvel movies as well. To approach that kind of role and have fun, but not take it seriously. Don't Adam West Batman it up. That everybody sort of came into it with genuine commitment. No one was there Spider-Man 2, come on, it's just gonna mess around. Everybody is fully believable in their roles, and it's a real credit to it. And the action scenes have got to be some of the best to this day. Oh
god, yeah. Some of the set pieces.
The scene where Dr. Octopus's arms start killing all of the doctors while they're performing surgery on him is one of the best edited scenes I've ever seen in anything ever. Sticks in the memory. And the train fight is legendary by now.
100%. I mean, I know it gets memed to death. Spider-Man unmasked, trying to slow down the train at the front, doing the best. I'm taking the biggest poo face imaginable. But
we haven't talked about Tobey Maguire's faces.
Yeah. But yeah, I love the bit where I can't remember who he's having a coffee with. It might be Mary Jane, but when he gets the spider sense alert that Octopus is throwing the big old car into the coffee shop, and that's a cool use of the spider sense, because that is one of those things that's really hard to get right on screen, and I thought that was very good use of it.
We haven't mentioned that way they did a really cool combination. This is one of those things where CGI needed to catch up to make a good Spider-Man film, where they have his first spider sense reaction in the first film, where it zooms around the fly and the straw with the spit and everything like that, kind of like in the Matrix when they do the bullet time kind of effects as well. They hit that in the absolute max. It's the perfect sequel in that it took everything in the first and bumped it up. In that scene where he chucks the car in it and slow-mo throwing them forward, that right there is absolutely gorgeous. Sam Raimi is a hell of a director.
Underrated. I mean, Evil Dead is one of my favorite trilogies of movies of all time. And although I wouldn't say Spider-Man is as flawless, we will get to there as those ones.
This is going to be another tier list. Evil Dead and its many spin-offs and remakes.
Absolutely. I'm down for that this Halloween. But Spider-Man 2, I would be very comfortable putting it in very good, very good. I think it's the best. Or is this a claim I'm willing to make? It's the best non-MCU Marvel movie.
What are the non-MCU Marvel movies? Fantastic Four, Spider-Man. I'm already agreeing with you. I don't know why I'm going down this list.
Daredevil, Elektra.
Blade. I don't know whether I prefer Blade.
Yeah, people do love Blade. Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance.
That's a guilty pleasure of mine.
I don't like pleasure. It. I like the first Ghost Rider. The second one, I think, is pants.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow. I liked it the worse it got.
Oh, no.
The more Nicolas Cage was just not giving a shit. No, you're right. It's the best non-MCU Marvel movie. And yeah, I think that definitely deserves to be very good, very good.
We're putting it right there. It's gone there, and I am going to adjust the scene a bit. So then we move forward another 3 years to 2007's Spider-Man 3, which is the very definition of jumping the shark. So
would you really call it that?
I mean, it's just too much. It's just too much. It's got elements. It's got elements to make a good film. It's got arguably one of the villains with the best potential to be captivating, and they waste him. I'm talking about Sandman. I'm talking about Sandman. Sandman.
I was like, I hope he's not. This isn't like a slow roll joke, and he's gonna be like, "Damn it, the new Goblin deserved our respect."
Oh, with his Goblin glider.
Yep. Oh no. You're absolutely right. In that it's frustrating, Spider-Man 3, because you see things that are some of the coolest things featured in any superhero film, let alone a Spider-Man film. That sequence, completely without dialogue, where Sandman forms for the first time and tries to pick up the necklace, still gives me chills every time I watch it to this day. Something special happened there, that they had a vision and it executed perfectly. And his whole arc, if it had been just the sole plot of the movie, probably would have catapulted this like up there with Spider-Man 2 as being a really nice sort of wrap up to a Spider-Man who's sort of coming to terms, coming from full circle, facing the sort of realities. I think that's just a perfectly fine story that would have made it really, really compelling. The way that they tied it back into the first film, that he was the one who'd accidentally caused the death of Uncle Ben. It was personal, it was relatable. The stakes. They didn't need Venom to make Tobey Maguire want to kill Sandman. That could have been the whole debate, is can he hold himself back? Will he be objective about this? And will he get revenge? And that is brilliant. That's a really, really great stuff. But they put Venom in it, and they put the new Goblin in it. And they put all sorts of stuff in it. And I think Raimi didn't want to this time around. He was very, very strong-armed by the company.
This was very much a case of studio interference, wanting to, market everything they could in this film, like throw in as many things that could be made into action figures, as many things that would make cool sound bites and clips for trailers. And ultimately, it made a film that was just a mess by the end of it. You've got the whole Peter becoming an emo because of the symbiote sideline where his hair is down, which must mean he's evil now.
He's evil because he's an emo.
He does the emo dance, which is the dance that all emos must do as a rite of passage.
All emos love going to jazz clubs and swing and doing them. Sorry, I just, with the minute you said like, oh, the studio interfered, they wanted to load it with as many things as possible, get as much merchandise out. I was like, thank God they never did that again. Joy.
We will get to that.
But they, so here's why I have some mixed opinions on this one, because I think we should objectively merit things on how entertaining they are and how many years of enjoyment they have provided us, not necessarily on our initial reaction and the merits. Yes, Spider-Man 2 is perfect. When the hell do I talk about Spider-Man 2? How often does it bring a smile to my face going like that? Walking down the street thinking of doing that. And I think it's a bit like Batman and Robin, where it's like, yes, objectively a terrible film, but can we all just accept as adults that a Bat credit card is really, really fucking funny? It's really funny. And we can laugh. It is ridiculous and it is stupid, but laughter is the best medicine. And I think that laughing at Spider-Man 3, at the bits that you can laugh, because some of it is genuinely terrible, just really, really bad, and it's not enjoyable in the slightest. But there's so much joy that it's provided with us. So many young comedians making their way onto YouTube have been inspired by emo Peter Parker, because that's such a brand of comedy that speaks to us now in 2020.
I tell you what, if you want to put this in very good, I'm joking. I'm not letting you put it in very good, very good. I
wouldn't go that far. I'm not going to put it in very good.
I wouldn't put this in the bottom tier, even in a sort of, a quality of film perspective, because I think we will get lower. And there are a lot of films on this list that I would watch. I would rather watch Spider-Man 3 again compared to them. So I think it's a film that ages like wine, as campier and as away from sort of that initial disappointment that we get, the more you can appreciate it for what a bit of schlock that it actually is. And it's the only thing is
B then.
Are you sure
is that
about
high
that?
For you?
I was going to say C.
Oh, I think that's mean. I think B acknowledges its value over time. If you talked about it in isolation, in its element at release, it's a fucking C. But apparently you think it was an F to start with, and now it's up to a C. I think it's gone from a C to a B.
Let's put it in C. Let's purely
high C. High C.
Above. Oh, I thought you were going to say high B, and I was going to say above Spider-Man. No. I know. You know what? Let's put it in B, and let's see what happens to the comment section. That's the thing I want to find out. So that's what's happening. Bring it on, public.
Oh, every breath I take without your permission gives me gratification.
Oh my God. Anyway, that's enough of the Raimi films. They got killed off after this one because people really didn't like Spider-Man 3.
It was that bad. It killed the franchise of a multi-billion-dollar superhero franchise.
People were like, how should we bring back Spider-Man? Let's make him Andrew Bloody Garfield and Emma Stone.
Let's give him a massive head and make him cool.
And make him 30 years old at high school.
I just love some of the descriptions of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, where they're just like, this skateboarding, photographing, popular, friendly, sociable, inclusive and attractive nerd.
Yep.
Gets all this, and it doesn't make any sense.
It really doesn't.
They try to make it appeal. It's got that awkward hangover before MCU and before but after things like Spider-Man and Fantastic Four, where they were like, people think we're dorky, we're cheesy, we need to be cool, we need to be young, we need to be hip, and we need to be relatable. It's a reboot, baby. We need that mass appeal. So we're going to make him just so attractive. Just so attractive. He's got really nice hair. We're going to get Emma Stone, like one of the most charming people alive, to play. Although, to be fair, Gwen Stacy, I think she plays the hell out of her in a lot of ways.
Well, that's the thing. I think we completely flip the Spider-Man Peter Parker value this time round, where he's a great Spider-Man, but just a absolutely woeful Peter Parker, because he's not Peter Parker. He's really not. He's a cool kid called Peter Parker. He's not the Peter Parker.
Yeah, he is a really cool kid he's just another one, like Miles Morales or Peter Parker, whatever. He's another Spider Boy that got bit. And we don't know his name yet. His name is Andrew Garfield. And he became Spider-Boy. And yeah, you're absolutely right. The scenes where he quips and he makes jokes and his mannerisms as Spider-Man are very, 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 very good. His suit is garbage. It's the worst one.
God, yeah.
Out of even worse than... I always thought the Tobey Maguire's one made him look a little bit sort of like just an average guy wearing a suit, which kind of works for Spider-Man, but I never saw him as being slender and flexible and spry and everything like that. He just looked like a guy wearing some latex, which is what it is, but it's a movie and that looks dumb. But Andrew Garfield's suit was designed with the same idea that he was let's make it cool and edgy and young and hip, and it's not very good.
No, and I mean, even getting to the plot, I can't remember much of the plot of this because I feel like it's one of the more boring ones. I know it's got Rhys Ifans as the lizard, Dr. Connors, I believe his
Kurt
name.
Connors.
Kurt Connors, that's it. And he gets the serum that makes him the big angry lizard, and that's pretty much it. Peter Parker and Spider-Man have to stop the big lizard, who Peter actually likes because he likes Kurt Connors, but he doesn't want him destroying the town. So there we go.
We can't let Lizard do the bad thing. That would be bad. So we need to stop him doing the bad thing.
Yeah, there's like an evil corporation. There's an evil corporation as well. I think at some point they
were trying to tie in the or at least they were more restrained than they were in the second one, but they were definitely trying to introduce elements that would crop up in later ones. So teasing Oscorp,
the Sinister Six,
which came in big in the second one, but they were laying the groundwork, I thought, in a fairly restrained way. It is, to their merit, quite a good self-contained movie. It is worth pointing out that it was rebooted very, very soon after, as far as reboots go.
It was about 4 years, I believe, 4 or 5 years.
And a lot of people did react by going like, why does this... Like, I know you need to keep making properties, but this is very, very, very similar to the first one we got, because you have Peter fighting somebody who he cares for. It's the Spider-Man methodology. So Peter works with a scientist. I'm something of a scientist myself. Peter works with a scientist who turns out secretly to be the bad guy. Big corporation messing with everybody, and they're the bad guys. Aunt May and him struggle, and New Yorkers band together and be like, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us, because they had the cranes. That was... I don't know why he needed that, because there's buildings everywhere. And anyway, that's nitpicky. But still, it is so forgettable because it really is by the numbers. It's a Spider-Man movie that was constructed in a lab to be mass appealing.
And this came out the same year, I believe, as the first Avengers movie. So we were already pretty thick into the MCU at this point. So I feel like they rushed this out to try and cash in on the popularity of superhero movies. And it just felt very, very, again, sort of like a death by committee, where so much of it is just trying to be like, here is the quintessential leading man. Everyone's going to want him as an action figure or a poster on their wall, maybe. And then everything else kind of fell by the wayside after that. So, I mean, shoot me in the comments. I would rather watch Spider-Man 3 than The Amazing Spider-Man. I
would as well. Like I've always said it, bad is better than boring.
Absolutely. Why do you think you're watching this channel?
Don't put yourself down there. So where do you rank UDS channels? Tier list of UDS channels.
Well, you got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U. There we are for UDS.
But it's they definitely just rushed it out to have a Spider-Man film still existing in the ether. They needed to keep that property. They needed to keep it relevant, and they needed to compete with the Avengers. They just put out the most by the numbers Spider-Man movie and still managed to cock it up in a lot of ways, which is the worst part about it. I realize now I don't know any of the people, and this is really testament to how boring it is, because I'm a dork who like looks up all of this stuff all the time, and I have no idea who directed, wrote, cast everything in this movie. I'd probably have like questions for them, because it's good. Why what happened here? Why did you do that? Why Andrew Garfield? And there's so many questions I'd have, but I'm just not interested, because it's not an interesting movie. It's not so bad it's bad, it's not so bad it's good, and it's not good enough to warrant any kind of comment on it.
No, I think it's the definition of a C, personally.
I see a C.
It's gone in C. And then we say about, the sequels, taking what made the first one good and then just building on it, improving it, like Spider-Man 2. This is a case of a film taking all the bad parts of the first one and doubling down, because I haven't seen Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2, which released in 2014, since 2014, because I didn't want to watch it again.
You've only seen it once?
I've only seen it once.
I'd love to know what you remember from it. It's weird, Amazing Spider-Man 2, because it's the second sequel. And the sequel, the second film of the Amazing Spider-Mans. And you've got to think, they're like, Raimi has made these films, these brilliant either acts to follow or cautionary tales. There's a lot to learn from Spider-Man 3, even if you don't like it as a filmmaker. But they were like, who should we copy? And here's my conspiracy theory. I think they saw what a meme Spider-Man 3 was becoming, and they were like, we need to do that. I think they deliberately did a Spider-Man 3 because they wanted it to be notorious for being so insane. Like Jamie Foxx as Electro, the lightning fixes his teeth and he plays dubstep versions of Incy Wincy Spider on electrical towers. That is shit you cannot make up unless you're trying to become notorious, like, and infamous for being bad. Dane DeHaan, the whole Green Goblin thing. It may sound, it's definitely like some kooky conspiracy theory, but I think they made a false attempt to make Spider-Man 3 rather than they were trying to make Spider-Man 2. They were trying to make a good one.
You're selling me on this film more than I remember it, just by that concept alone.
I'm so sorry. I would like to emphasize, I think it's absolute shite. I think it's terrible. It's definitely my least favorite Spider-Man movie, possibly one of my least favorite superhero films of all time.
Yeah, I would be in agreement. There's so little of this movie that I remember, but yet so much happens. Like even that ending thing when you got Paul Giamatti as the Rhino, that went nowhere.
Paul Giamatti as the Rhino. How can you not say that this was deliberate?
Even that sentence coming out of my mouth tasted weird.
You don't accidentally cast Paul Giamatti as the Rhino.
That is the quote that I'm putting on the title of this video. Oh my god.
Okay, one positive point. We like to be fair. We like to be even tempered. Do we do that? No, we don't. I do.
In this case,
the suit was amazing, and his swinging
it was an
scenes,
improvement.
The swinging scenes. I remember actually as a promo. Normally they release trailers or a particular scenes for movies ahead of. They don't really do that anymore. They used to post, snippets of scenes up on YouTube before movies. They don't really do that anymore. But I remember Amazing Spider-Man 2 being unique in that they just posted the first 10 minutes of the film of him swinging around. I remember seeing it on like IGN or some shit, and it was that's the first 10 minutes of Amazing Spider-Man 2, which are the only good parts of the film. And it's just him swinging around, and it's become quite famous because I see people trying to recreate it in whatchamacallit, the Spider-Man video game, the PS4 5 one, recreating the opening sequence of Amazing Spider-Man 2 because it's the most fun I've had watching Spider-Man swing around, unless I was doing it myself. And that is all the good I can say about this film.
See, I didn't even remember that much. And
I don't blame you because the rest of the movie happens. And it's long and somehow still bloated. You've got, I don't know why anybody thought, okay, so Dane DeHaan was a thing, and I think he's not a thing anymore.
No, because they realize he's the most wooden actor. Oh, I almost made a bad Joker Keanu Reeves' expense then, but I actually like Keanu Reeves.
Tom, we want to incite anger on the internet. We don't want to fucking die.
Yeah, this is true. I do, for the record, I love Keanu Reeves. He plays Wooden well. Dane DeHaan does not. Valerian is the Planet of 1,000 Cities or City of 1,000 Planets, whatever it is. Cara Delevingne and Dane DeHaan in 2 leading roles is like getting 2 shop mannequins, dressing them up in sci-fi gear, placing them on a green screen, and saying $40 for a cinema ticket, please.
Oh my god! You probably have wrung more charisma and chemistry out of the cardboard cutouts of the characters than you would of the actual actors.
Yep,
that was a. I'd forgotten about Valerian. Thank you for that. Thanks for that, Tom.
That's quite all right. We can watch it after this.
Would you rather watch Valerian or Amazing Spider-Man 2? Shoot yourself. just shoot yourself.
See, I do remember watching Valerian and thinking, it's all right. It's just the leads aren't good. Like the world is pretty. Spider-Man 2 is just boring.
Yeah, it is boring. That one is. I always like a bit of Clive Owen. I think that's why it saved that movie. I'd watch Clive Owen in anything. I like it. I watched Gemini Man and liked Clive Owen in that as well. So I don't care. I think I just have a crush on Clive Owen.
Was he in Shoot 'Em Up?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's Clive Owen.
Shoot 'Em Up. I think he was.
I'm pretty sure that's Clive Owen.
He wasn't in Repo Man, was he?
I never saw that.
That's a good one. I think you like that. So that kind of like, big schlocky fun action. It's fun. We just don't want to talk about Spider-Man 2.
No,
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Can we put it in F? Put it in F? It's got to go in F.
Normally, I give credit to people who are trying in films that are too bad for them. I don't like Jamie Foxx in it either. He was really.
I was just going to rename the F tier Amazing Spider-Man 2.
You're just naming it Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Well, let's be real.
It's the only thing that's going to be going in there.
It's the only thing that's going in there. So that is what it will be known as now.
When you told me we were making the segments for it, like, I'm going to get rid of one of the rows so it won't be like very good, very good, very good, B, C, D, and F. We're going to get rid of D. And I was like, that's fine. It's going right to the bottom. Yep. Nothing's going to stay there. I only need the bottom tier to put that somewhere. The rest of them are fine by comparison.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we can leave the Amazing Spider-Man 2 tier alone now and never speak about it again because I don't want to. Although apparently Jamie Foxx is going to be back for No Way Home, so that will be interesting. That's the thing.
Amazingly bad.
That's the thing that's happening.
Listen, they even in X-Men. Whatever X-Men, they do their best to ignore The Last Stand, okay? They try and ignore it as much as possible. You had the opportunity, you rebooted it, you wiped the slate clean, but the multiverse, you just had to bring them back.
They don't like Brett Ratner, and for good reason.
He is a wank.
He certainly is, one whole wank. But I'll tell you what's not wank is the MCU. They do pretty good for most of the time. One film which I really liked was the first Spider-Man MCU film, which was Homecoming. That was a really long, meandering sentence. But we're going to talk about Spider-Man Homecoming, 2017's Spider-Man Homecoming, I believe.
Starts another meandering sentence.
Oh, shut up.
You are Tom Baker.
This is me. This is how I present.
I think you should be one of those quiz show hosts. When they start like a question and they're like, let's see, can you get the answer? Let's take it over to you. Let's see if you can get the, what do you think about that? What do you do for a living? And they're just like, I want to say the question.
I'll be an auctioneer. We're going to talk about this fine thing. Anyone want to buy this thing? It's a thing. It's a fine thing. It's a thing. It's a thing on this plinth. Anyway, Spider-Man. So this one is good because unlike me, it doesn't waste any time and foregoes the origin story because by this point we know how Spider-Man came to be, and so they just sort of throw him in. Obviously, he was already debuted in Captain America Civil War for the previous year. So we already had like a little bit of a vibe of what kind of personality he was going to be. And this kind of leads right into that in sort of shows everything from Peter Parker's perspective, then goes into the story as it is after that, which I think is a really neat way of tying up the universe from sort of this big grandiose sort of, series defining thing to a much more self-contained story, which I think it needed to really flesh out Spider-Man away from the universe-ending stakes. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of this film. What do you think of this?
I'm gonna probably anger you and shock you. I don't really like Homecoming.
Really interesting.
And it's something I think it's a me thing. Because I look around and I have like the self-awareness to be like, okay, I'm probably in the wrong, but I can't. So I'm not going to be like, you're all wrong for liking Homecoming, like I am for some things. But I just genuinely don't like it at all. A lot of what people praise about it would be that it's one of the first genuinely good MCU villains that people enjoy. And I really, really, really love me some, what's his name? Michael Keaton.
Yes.
I don't know. There's several Keatons, and I was like, it's not Diane. I'd have noticed if the Vulture was Diane Keaton.
I mean, I would hope so.
I'd love that. So like, just sort of knock it out of the way. I don't really like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I think he's kind of like, I think I just don't like his voice. I think he's a great actor, but like, I hate my what's Spider-Man. He sounds like a tiny stuttering Spider-Man in a box. Uncle Brim from Gavin and Stacey. I forgot the comedian's name.
Rob Brydon.
Rob Brydon's like routine with the man in the box. He sounds like a Spider-Man in a box. He's just constantly like,
I mean, you make him sound like Morty from Rick and Morty.
Oh, jeez, Mr. Stark. Oh my God. Tom Holland, Spider-Man, and Tony Stark are Rick and Morty. Tom, what have you done?
Oh, someone's got to have thought that already.
Someone's already said that. That's the first thought for me, and I'm looking at you like you're a goddamn wizard.
Oh, I'll take it. I tell you what, though, I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man and Peter Parker. I think he's the best balance of both that we've got so far. I think because he is that much younger than the other two actors as well, he is much more believable as a high school student. I love the sort of the what's the word? Motivation for Michael Keaton's A Vulture, that basically the Avengers movie, the fight in New York, basically bankrupted him and his firm. And so to get his revenge, he stole some of the alien tech and made it so that he could then just become a criminal. And I think that is so relatable that, you've got these superheroes that are in a sense saving everyone, but at the other sense, because they're on such a macro scale, they have no real care for the people that kind of get in the way, the collateral damage, as it were. And so I can see why that would make someone jaded and angry and sort of give up on society. So
agreed, but he's not, though. Like that's my thing that I kind of get about. I never found Vulture that sort of appealing or interesting, because they seem to be saying one thing but then do another. Because they visit his house when he goes to take her to prom, and it's huge, and they have the party there, and he's very, very rich now.
But that's because he's
from selling all the weapons.
Yeah.
So his status as like a working class, I think the movie, I would have appreciated it way more if he was just about breaking even by selling the weapons, because he could only sell a couple of them because they're alien technology weapons that he only got a couple of, and who's going to buy them, and he has to sell them on the down low. If he was just getting by, just doing his own thing, actively doing harm in the world and gonna kill anybody who stops him from getting in his way, but he's clearly like really, really well off from it. So he's definitely been fine for a number of years, enough for his daughter to grow up to high school age, because what was that, like 10 years ago? And then he carries on, though, and it's like I heard what it was saying, which is, oh, this is a put upon working class guy just doing what he needs to. He's sticking it to the man, maybe Tony's the bad guy, that kind of thing. But what I saw was a guy in the present. He was just rich and selling weapons, which is exactly what, like, most Marvel villains end up doing. Just rich guys selling weapons, just because he didn't wear like a big suit and like, do evil things. He did all the evil things. He killed his henchmen. He did all of that stuff. I think he was so actually by the numbers in practice. In theory, I love the character of Vulture. And it's definitely better than what I remember the comics character being, a bit of a dweeb. But in practice, what I saw was like the same. Like, I remember we had this argument when we were doing the villain tier list, and I was like, he doesn't hold a damn candle to Killmonger. And I got really upset about Vulture. I was like, he's nothing compared to Killmonger.
No Sam Rockwell.
He's no damn Sam Rockwell. Oh my god!
I mean, I disagree. I think he does have a lot more nuance than a lot of the MCU villains compared to like the likes of Ronin and things like that. I think like the scene when he's taking Peter to the prom, and they're in the car, and he pulls out the gun, and there's that real tension that he knows and he's figured out who he is, but he's like,
that is a great scene.
And he's like,
I can't lie, that is a good scene.
And I feel like had he been like a regular MCU villain, he would have just like started a fight then. But he's like, no, you're gonna drop the Spider-Man act, but I'm not gonna, I know you're just a kid, I'm not an inherently or innately terrible person. I'm just a guy who's disenfranchised and has because that's the thing. I agree,
because he's been messed up.
I agree that he's sort of taken, he's got his and then he's taken a bit more. But I think that when there's when society has failed you and you can't turn your back on the system,
you're saying that they live in a society? They
do live in a society, and I think the fact that he's been burned by it is probably being like, well, why should I go back? Like I've broken even. Why should I go back to the system that could step on me again? I might as well go down this path now that I've started. So I that doesn't bother me as much. And I do I
fully recognize it's a me thing.
And I do like the crisis of confidence that Peter gets and sort of the relationship with him and Tony. So yeah,
that's getting into the other thing that I'm mad about is Iron Man is in it. And while partly that is set up because he's now integral to the existence of Spider-Man in the MCU. The Iron Man set it up. That he was the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but he's the one who put him in the suit and launched him into it basically empowered him to do proper hero stuff, because maybe it would have taken a little bit longer for him and he would have stayed local to Queens for a while doing his Spider-Man thing. So Iron Man is integral to this Spider-Man. Yeah, I just think that's a bad idea in general because for a number of reasons. One, I think it weakens Iron Man movies by comparison because he already picked up a surrogate son in Iron Man 3, which they promptly abandoned. And he only comes back in his funeral, and most people in the audience were like, who the hell is that kid?
He went through puberty and he became unrecognizable.
Exactly, as often happens. And it also pisses me off that when Iron Man turns up to save the day, my head was like, play some AC/DC, play some goddamn AC/DC, and they don't play any AC/DC. And they play this new weird Iron Man theme, and it bothers me so much that I don't have an Iron Man theme that is just that Shoot to Thrill and Back in Black doesn't play whenever he steps on scene. Like, if Thor Ragnarok proved that if you take a fucking 70s or 80s classic rock song and play it over superheroes, it's amazing. Guardians of the Galaxy, for some reason, 70s and 80s rock goes with superhero movies. And I think that's the case, except, Spider-Verse rap comes in. But I'm annoyed that they never played Immigrant Song in Infinity War, and I'm annoyed that they never played AC/DC in Spider-Man Homecoming. But also, having Iron Man be integral to the sort of the Spider-Man canon kind of does another Uncle Ben over again. And it started with Homecoming, where his whole thing is, are you responsible enough to be Spider-Man? Are you just like a kid? Do you deserve to have all of this incredible power? When are you responsible enough to do that? Spider-Man responsibility. And it just felt so corporate to have Iron Man be the one to lead that. To me, it makes sense that he would, because he's kind of the father figure for the MCU in general, for him to be looking at Spider-Man. But just watching the movie, I was like, why? Spider-Man was enough. We had 4 or 5, Spider-Man films where Spider-Man was the only hero in them, and it was fine. It's just distraction. MCU bloatedness, where they're just like, we need to set up the next 9 movies in this one movie. I didn't like it. Hated it.
I don't know. I feel like you need that to then get to that emotional heft in the, and I know we're trying to judge these in isolation, but that emotional heft at the end of Endgame, where he's and in Infinity War for that matter, where you got the Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good, and then the other way around in Endgame.
Mr. Parker, I don't feel so good. Oh god. I think it's only fair to sort of know that, take it with the knowledge of what comes after, because they do plan things so meticulously in the MCU, that I think it's fair to mention that they were setting up Infinity War, with that one. But like in isolation, I was mainly thinking, I want to get to know Tom Holland's Spider-Man, which you do in a fair bit, but it felt like a huge distraction and very unnecessary to the story to have Iron Man be the one constantly popping up doing things, and felt more like cross promotion than telling a good story. Because what is it overall that he like takes away the suit and he still manages to beat him, and that's what sort of earns him back the thing, because he fights him in his crappy hoodie suit. And that was the point, that they needed like a guy on the ground. But yeah, maybe I just have problems with the MCU format by this point.
Yeah, I can see that, it definitely is an MCU film through and through, and whether or not that's to your taste or not is going to sort of affect your mileage. But I would gladly put this in A. I feel like there might be some controversy there, though.
I know why I hate it. It's the end credit scene where Captain America trolls everybody for waiting at the end of the theater. Do you remember that?
Oh, what, when he does? Is that the backwards chair bit?
No, it's when he's delivering the speech about patience. It's because he's done the videos for the gym class.
No, that is what
Buress is like, I think he's a war criminal. That's so funny. But the end credit scene, not the first one, the second one, was just him being like, patience is very important. You might wait for something thinking it's going to be amazing, but it may not turn out exactly like you were hoping or some shit. And then he just smiles at the camera. And there was like 20 nerds sat in my theater who were just like, oh, come on. I think that's why I'm angry about it. I'm being unreasonable. Anyway, you want to put it in A. Can I bump it down to B?
We'll put it at the top of B, but that's me doing it begrudgingly.
Is it better than Spider-Man 1 is the question.
I would say so. I wanted to put it in A, so I would say so.
Put it above Spider-Man 1, but in B.
Okay, that's called compromise.
You're a very compromising guy, thank you.
Well, let's take a little meander, as I keep saying that word, from the MCU and go for...
We're not meandering, we're moving very deliberately one step to another.
Let's move to a film called Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. This is a film...
S tier. S tier.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you. This is a film that basically changed the formula of how you can do superhero movies. For
the better. Yeah. Amazing.
It's a mature... Well, I say mature. It's mature in the sense that it can be enjoyed by adults and children without sort of, like, oh, it's a kid's film with jokes for adults. This is a film that can thoroughly be enjoyed by everyone. Takes on the Miles Morales character as opposed to Peter Parker from the Ultimate line of the comics. Blends that in with a multiverse of different Spider-Man from the different comic universe. You've got Peter Parker as a aging sort of washout. You've got Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Gwen, Spider-Ham. You've got so many cool Spider-Men featured in this, and that's just mentioning the characters. You also have, you talk about a blend of comedy and pathos, and you've got that balanced to a T here. You've got the coming of age of Miles Morales, sort of slipping into the shoes of responsibility. You've got the family drama with his uncle and his dad, who's a cop, and you've got the brilliant interplay between Peter Parker and Miles Morales, and sort of that reluctant tutor role, and it's just phenomenal. And you've got a really, really, really good villain in Kingpin.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That was a classic Spider-Man villain of having, sympathetic motivations, but absolutely devastating brutality. Yeah, it is perfect all around. And God bless the cast as well of brilliant voice actors. Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker, Nicolas Cage, just inspired as Spider-Man Noir.
Absolutely.
Just really, really, really brought life to an already a really, really vivid animation style, which was a massive gamble. But the more I read about it, it was tight efficiency, really, really amazing stuff what they did, because I remember watching them doing production on it, saying, if you look really, really closely at the background, it is just shapes. We didn't draw anything. We wrote algorithms of lines moving to simulate the impression of traffic in the background, and had things move at half frames, like skipping a frame every single time to make it look like one thing. And when I always geek out about like things in film production, the bit where he's teaching him how to swing and flip, they are in opposite frames, moving one after another. And then when he gets into sync with him, going flip and release and flip and release, they're moving in the same frames again. That stuff like that. It's shit like that where I'm like, you're better at this than anybody. But it's who is it? It was Phil Lord and the other guy who did the Lego movie. They just continuously make hits. They have, you're absolutely right, with the perfect blend of pathos and fun, where it's just appealing to everybody. Same reaction I got out of the Lego movie, where I was like, this is some good childish entertainment, and then there we go. That was there. I'm there in the fields. There we go. Same thing with Into the Spider-Verse. Whenever you're just losing yourself, having a really, really fun time, it just kicks you, and it's just really, really emotional. And credit to them for making the Spider-Man formula feel new in its story. So, the uncle dies. Mahershala Ali, the Prowler sound with the elephant noise.
I was definitely going to bring that up, because a lot gets said about the soundtrack of this film, which is fantastic. I've got it on vinyl somewhere over there. It's
nice.
It's brilliant. But the audio cues and the sound effects in this film are just out of this world as well. Incredible.
They, even from the most minute detail, the thwips sound perfect. The sound for the Prowler and all of that. The mixing between the music, the recorded, pop music, blending in. I love it when diegetic sound mixes around. So when characters are listening to music on headphones, hey, there it is. Oh, jealous. That's fucking cool. So cool. Is that the What's Up Danger scene? Yes.
It is.
Oh, man. Love that. So when characters are listening to Start a Riot or Sunflower on their headphones and singing along with it, that's the most charming thing. It's why I love Tarantino films, why I love some other stuff like Midsummer and things like that. Sound design is so important, and it's absolutely nailed it. Speaking of like scenes that were in earlier Spider-Man films that give you chills, where it's the Sandman scene, the scene where Dr. Octopus kills all the doctors, the What's Up Danger scene is one of the finest pieces of visuals that I've ever seen in anything, where he does the leap of faith and starts swinging through. I just picture that in my head, and that's just that incredible. It's funny. It's really good action. My eyes do start to bleed towards the end of it, where they're inside the Spider-Verse and he's kicking the shit out of Kingpin, and it's all black and red spots going everywhere, shooting in the face. But what I respect most about it is that it's more rewarding on a rewatch somehow. It's amazing the first time around, but if you rewatch it, there is like the way that they do throwbacks is really, really clever. Some scenes where Miles will move and swing in the exact same way that he saw Peter A. Parker move to show his coming of age. You don't recognize it on the first instance, but like you feel it and you're like, he's did it, he's made it. And the continuous sort of like, let's do this one last time kind of thing. You know, they a little bit like what was it, the shitty sequel, 22 Jump Street, acknowledging the just knowing that this is a sequel, this is franchise making, and playing on that, you know, acknowledge it, hang a lampshade on it, have some fun with it. It doesn't work just to say, haha, we know that this is just like continuing franchises for franchise's sake. It's doing something clever with it. So there's just no level that Spider-Verse doesn't work.
It's the closest I've ever felt to watching a comic book on screen. It feels like you're reading the pages of the comic book, and you mentioned that, you know, it became a bit of an eye ache by the end. I have to mention the fellow UDS member Dobby is actually not a fan of the art styles here, which I don't know whether or not that's you can even sort of construe that as a plus, in that, you know, it says something. You know, it's not sort of like a bland sort of, you know, how a lot of things in these Spider-Man movies feel like death by committee just to make it to the biggest market. I feel like they had a definite style they wanted to go with this, and they were going to go with it regardless of it, you know, hit or sink. And so
be your own thing. Separate yourself out from the previous 3 Spider-Men that we've had in the last 20 years. So that's what you're actually, because that was 2018. Spider-Man 1 comes out 2002. 16 years, you've had 3 people play live action Spider-Man. How do you separate yourself from the pack? And Spider-Verse was how you did that. You just balls to the wall, stick to your guns on whatever makes you unique. I've always thought as well that up until this kind of felt validating for animated superhero films in general, because there were definitely 2 tiers to them, and DC kind of had the lock on animated. It was all that they were producing that was people were generally agreeing was quite good, and it pushed them far enough to make things like the Killing Joke animated movie like a big deal. They marketed that strongly because they knew that was their bread and butter. They did big ensemble DC movies. They had a team of good voice actors that could just bash out Justice League Dark in a second, and they could do that. But I've always felt that like MCU superhero action has always felt a little bit stale because it's not bad. It's mainly the action editing and choreographing, which Shang-Chi corrected, thankfully. Yes. But up until that point, it was very rapid edit, just people punching each other a little bit, usually just using CGI. So, and I've always thought that the thing that they were restrained by the fact that they were so trying to ground it in the real world. Whereas Spider-Verse comes along and you can still relate to and feel something that is so blatantly, unabashedly, unapologetic about being a cartoon, like about being a comic book movie and about being a 2D animation. They went hard on that. And it truly showed that like style over veracity, like, you know, a perfect recreation of reality was actually better. It's why we love to look at things like Breath of the Wild or the Telltale games, you know, cel-shaded things like that. It's why we like looking at things like that. They're not perfect simulacrums of real life, but they've got style, they've got identity. And I really loved that in Spider-Verse. I guess they're going to do the same thing for Spider-Verse 2, right? Like they're not going to immediately switch up the whole game again. Oh no,
I feel like they'd be silly to change it up too much, because I feel like there's still so much to do within the universe that they built that I don't see a need to you know, change the formula at all, really.
We only get tired of these things after a couple of films anyway. I'll happily go back and pay that.
Oh yeah.
If anything, I'm looking forward more to Spider-Verse 2 than I am to What's it called? No Way Home?
No Way Home, yeah.
Home. I've already forgotten.
Well, we will see how they can do. But a last note for me on Spider-Verse is it's one of the best end credit scenes ever. We touched on it. The meme pointing thing, but also Oscar Isaac as Spider-Man 2099. Inspired casting.
That's brilliant. I can't wait for that.
So are we putting Spider-Verse above Spider-Man 2, yeah?
I think so, yeah.
I would agree. We
highest too.
Pop it there, right at the tippy top. And I can't think of a good segue from the term tippy top, but we're right at the end now. We've got Spider-Man Far From Home, which is the second Tom Holland film. We're back in the MCU, people. Deal with it. And
we're here to stay.
it's not going anywhere, that's for sure. But I tell you what, I feel like this is a sequel that gets it right. So this is the first film to release in the wake of Avengers Endgame. I believe it only came out a couple of months afterwards. It was very, very close afterwards.
It was the first one, yeah, very, very soon afterwards. And people were very clear to clarify that it was part of the same phase. This was the epilogue of Endgame. It wasn't to be considered, all right, new story, here we're going on. It was, no, this is everybody coming to terms with the immediate aftermath of that thing. So yeah, right the fuck afterwards.
Yeah, because you've got Peter initially mourning the death of Tony Stark. You've got him taking the glasses with all of the, I can't remember what the system Edith. There was one after Jarvis, and also forging a relationship with Happy, Jon Favreau's character as well, who is fantastic in this film, as he is in most things. I love Jon Favreau.
I'm going to disagree again.
Oh no! Tell me what you think of Happy and make me sad.
I'm sorry. It's just more of the Iron Man shit. I really hate that Iron Man is integral to Spider-Man in the MCU, and that I genuinely cannot wait for No Way Home to see him mess around with the Spider-Verse. But I'm like, just tell a Spider-Man story. Why did Doctor Strange gotta be involved? I know you want to do the Spider-Verse and the multiverse and everything like that, but can we have Craven first? Can you give me the Rhino, but good, still played by Paul Giamatti?
I was going to say, thank God for that.
Yeah, no, I'm not crazy, man. I just want the Rhino. I just really, really miss Spider-Man stuff, and knowing that Jared Leto is the damn vampire,
Morbius,
and the fact that things like Venom have now started existing apart at kind of arm's length from Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and with the potential of fusing in the future, but for now at least no hints that there's going to be any kind of meaningful crossover. That just depresses the hell out of me, because like I feel like that they kind of lost sight of why some of the MCU stuff was really, really appealing, which was that they did take B-list people, that they did take not necessarily the coolest Marvel heroes and Avengers, because they didn't really have the money or the rights to do them. And they did get people like Captain America and all that kind of stuff. But whenever they did the minor ones, it really paid off. Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and Iron Man wasn't even really top tier before Robert Downey Jr. came across. But as a character to put in a Hollywood movie is amazing. And whenever I see like a Spider-Man movie, I'm generally wanting to see Spider-Man, but it's overshadowed by the presence of Tony Stark and every tertiary Tony Stark character like Happy. So the presence of Happy within it just makes me think of Tony Stark, and I'm like, get the fuck out of here, Jon Favreau. What do you have to do with Spider-Man? Why are you dating Spider-Man's mom? Why does Aunt May keep getting hotter and younger every single Spider-Man iteration?
That's marketing for you.
That's creepy is what it is.
It is.
I don't want to see two separate characters macking on Aunt May. That is so weird to me. Because I see Marissa Tomei. I hear, oh, Peter, don't remember to pack your lunch, Peter. That's the Aunt May I think of. And they're like, God, your aunt is so hot.
Now it's all about that Peter tingle. And that's what...
Oh, disgusting. Shut up. So, yeah, the presence of Edith and drones and the Iron Spider suit and all of this kind of stuff. Like all of that really, really. Given it's the same thing that I don't like, so I won't bang on about it, but it's the same reason that I'm not a fan of Homecoming. It's just the overshadowing presence of Tony Stark within the MCU and the inability to like extricate themselves. I'm like, he's a compelling enough character by himself. He didn't need to do that. But I guess you like Happy Hogan.
I do. I feel like the relationship between Peter and Tony is a blessing. I don't think it takes away. I think it augments. But we've got this fine. We've not mentioned Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio, who we talk about villains that I feel like break the MCU mold. I think he's fantastic in this. I think he's a great Mysterio. I think it would probably be more impactful if you weren't aware of Mysterio beforehand. And so the whole bait and switch of him, is he a goodie? Is he a baddie? Mind you, I still almost got a bit looped in thinking, are they going to just like make him like an anti-hero? And
you're right. It is genuinely a bit of a, oh shit, because they commit really hard, and everything that you've seen, they do play a very, very good magic trick on that one of trying to convince you that Jake Gyllenhaal might be good. That scene, I will say he is pure entertainment. All of my misgivings are absolutely nothing compared to how fun Jake Gyllenhaal is in that movie. And when he finally reveals himself and turns into his full I don't give a crap, I'm the bad guy performance, it's delightful. He's so unrepentant, and we've always been clamoring for Marvel villains to have 3D nuance and subtleties and sympathetic arcs and all of this kind of stuff. But there is a lot to be said of like your Hellas and your Mysterios, who are just, I'm bad, and it's so fun to be bad. Like I'm going to do this thing because I want to do it, and it's really entertaining. Jake Gyllenhaal is a hell of an actor.
I love how he brought back a lot of the sort of the very sort of B characters from previous Iron Man films.
The box of scraps guy from Iron Man 1.
Exactly. All the people that kind of had their lives sort of stepped on by the Stark Enterprises, and just bringing back that little nod of continuity was just glorious. And even I know you're probably going to say, oh, it's all still leaning on Iron Man, but the idea of Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio finding that gap of in Peter's life at the moment of a mentor after he's feeling lost at the death of Tony Stark, and sort of exploiting that and using that to win his trust so that he can sort of get his way is so cool. It's very, very
nefarious. That's
devilishly evil, and even the setting of this film, I love the fact that it's all essentially a road trip across Europe and culminates in our fair London town.
The set pieces are genuinely like quite inspired. Having like a Venice canal fight with Hydra Man, that's brilliant. I love that. That was really, really fun. And the whole escapades in the Netherlands was very, very funny. I love how polite and helpful everybody is around him. And I always got to mention the Spider-Man suit. This is another fucking amazing one. When in the black and red classic one. We keep not mentioning Mary Jane in all of these, and I don't dislike Zendaya.
No,
in that I just think it's not. She's quite a big subplot in this one, isn't it? Because she knows who he finally tells her, and they get together in this one, and she kind of helps him sleuth it out, or at least they pay a lot more attention to the kids in this one, where they're hanging out with Happy getting attacked. They're more helpful.
Well, that's the thing. I think out of the kids, Ned and Flash are more interesting and grab more of the screen than Zendaya's Mary Jane. Particularly, I know Ned gets, he's sort of like a lot of the comic relief, but I think Flash is great in this in terms of he's gone from being sort of like a just a meathead jock in the original Tobey Maguire one, who was actually played by Joe Manganiello, is that his name? The guy who ended up doing loads of D&D stuff and being like real zaddy energy. But anyway, this time he's sort of, he's not like muscle bound. He's just a bit of a douche who's actually got, sort of father issues of himself because his parents aren't very particularly
that is
affectionate.
one of the funniest like running jokes of the movie, in kind of like that, oh, that's so tragic, I don't know whether to just like laugh or cry, where it's like, mother couldn't make it. That's just so funny to me. He's like, it's very, very good storytelling, a very, very good character building for the characters. They all have a real strong like idiosyncrasy to them. I will say that they're all really clearly defined characters. I do think that they softened Zendaya's character from her really weird self in Homecoming. She like was constantly just popping up saying very unique and conspiracy theory type things. And in this one, because they need to shepherd her to be Peter Parker's love interest, I think that they neutered some of her personality a little bit to do that kind of like teen romance thing where it's like, oh, we're so shy and bashful and oh, this and that kind of thing, which works for Peter because he is a shy little dork, but
for better
Zendaya's character doesn't care.
For better or worse, it definitely has a bit of a 80s teen flick energy to it. And I don't know whether or not it's because it came out in the same sort of time as like Stranger Things and It and all of those things, but it definitely has that, as you say, sort of like very well-defined kid characters. This is the, you know, the fat best friend. This is the bully who is being bullied by his parents. This is the love interest. And
they're going to go on a road trip and get up to wacky hijinks.
Exactly.
And the teachers can't find out what we're doing.
And you know what? There is a lot of that which I find super endearing and I do love. But as you say, it does have its shortcomings that do make it somewhat formulaic. But I think this is a film that has a lot more good than negative to it, and that ending where you know you think Mysterio has been defeated, and you know Peter and Mary Jane are gonna whip off into the distance and live a good life, and then the very much Alex Jones Infowars reimagining of J. Jonah Jameson using the last transmission of Mysterio. I almost said Rey Mysterio. I'm like, God, I've been watching too much wrestling.
Well, to be fair, it is Spider-Man. He is like, he's inspired by wrestlers, isn't he?
I'm pretty sure, and just sort of JJJ then sort of making it to be
JJ Jameson and Jake Gyllenhaal. Oh no! Oh god!
JJJ, making Peter into a public enemy number one. Not only making Spider-Man vilified, but revealing his secret identity to the world is a great cliffhanger to leave it on, and has got me a lot, very very interested for No Way Home. So
it's ballsy. It's a big whammy moment.
It is.
They didn't pull punches on it because this, I think. That they didn't. It's a really brilliant move because it does feel a little bit. It's very easygoing for the most part when it feels like a road trip, and then you have the big action finale. And while you do have all the twisty Mysterio scenes and everything like that, it does play. You're like, I'm enjoying myself. I'm having a good Marvel fun time, and then. But you're like, oh, following Endgame, this is a little bit of an anticlimax. That ending completely blows all those thoughts out of the water because you're like, oh, yep, no, stuff matters. Okay.
Absolutely.
This is quite big. I'm glad that they didn't pull any punches on that one and decided to do something very, very bold in the end, which is, fair to MCU. They know when to take a big step forward. And now this is going to be the tie-in for all of that multiverse of madness, WandaVision, Spider-Verse stuff. You know, it's a good tie-in. But why can't we just have a Spider-Man solo film? I'm so mad. He has, I think, the best rogues gallery of any Marvel Comics hero. I think Batman has better villain sets and Flash has a better villain set. But if you're talking Marvel heroes, they got such trash for the most part. Marvel villains suck, but I can perfectly imagine a modern Green Goblin. I can imagine a Dr. Octopus. The Spider-Man PS4 game did an incredible Dr. Octopus, and all of these characters, and they've got all of them at their little fingertips, and they won't touch them because they keep making it about Iron Man. I'm sorry, but like I hate it. Mysterio is amazing without Iron Man. He was great with Iron Man, but like you didn't need him. I'm still so mad about it. But hey, it is still really good. I laughed. It's one of the funniest MCU films I've ever seen. The blip Comic Sans in memoriam at the beginning has me
good.
in stitches.
Because that is a thing that would happen at a middle school, like 100%.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was on par with his little camera recordings at the beginning of Homecoming. I was being like, this feels so genuine. Like, this is very kind of like a very real world reaction to it. The kid's reaction to the guy who's aged up 5 years, and he's just like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's so hot now.
Yeah. And the Fury line about like, they're drawing from the natural power of the Earth's core in order to become stronger. And he's just like, that's some bullshit. That was brilliant. I don't think I've laughed that hard at a Marvel film since Thor Ragnarok, really.
That's probably a good shout. I love some subverted expectations, and I think this one does it well.
Subverted expectations, Tom. That word is illegal. Ever since the Game of Thrones finale.
Oh God,
those subverting expectations is illegal. Oh no, not just since that. Since Rise of Skywalker as well. You're not allowed to subvert expectations anymore. This isn't a good thing.
Well, I like it. Sue me. And,
I do. I will say that I did enjoy Far From Home. I'm sorry to be so negative and make you feel sad, Tom, but
it's Dobby who you're gonna have to apologize for. Cheers.
For liking Spider-Verse so much.
Thanks. Dobby's crying now.
Good.
Should we give it A? Are you happy with an A?
I'm happy with an A. Yeah.
Let's pop it in A and make sure that the thing is still formatted. It is not. I am going to adjust that on the fly now.
Oh wow! 10 out of 10 production. Wow.
There we go.
It's a tight ship we run here.
It's fine. It's fine. Anywho, that's going to make it fun to edit later. But for now, that is the provisional lists of so far. So if you've been playing along at home, you now have Amazing Spider-Man 2 in the category Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Where it belongs.
C tier, we have Amazing Spider-Man. B tier, we have from bottom to best, Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man, and Spider-Man Homecoming. A tier, we have Far From Home, and in very good, we have Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. I'm fairly content with that list. Is there anything you would like to change or you think looks amiss?
I don't think anything at all I'd like to change there. I think that perfectly matches my feelings about each one. I only wish that we could put in my head, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is in, like, I'm transplanting it to letters like S-A. That's Z to me. There's a massive gap. I'm only angry that we can't just put it lower down, just like separate it from the pack a little bit. But yeah, I'm happy with that. Are you happy with that?
I'm happy with that. I agree. There are only so many pixels in a 1080 by 920 display, and we can't fit Amazing Spider-Man 2 away from these ones far enough. So we're
restrained by technology, but in our hearts, it's lower.
Exactly. When they finally have enough technology to build the $6 million man, don't do that. Just give us a screen big enough to keep Amazing Spider-Man 2 away from the rest of the Spider-Man movies. And on that,
Ray, I have one last thing. Make your predictions. Where do you think No Way Home is going to place? Just on your first impressions, where do you think it's going to be? And we're going to come back to this in like, was at least 3 months. We're going to come back to it in 3 months.
I think it's going to be S tier. I think Alfred Molina coming back, the intrigue of what's happening after Spider-Man is outed, and the promise of Tobey Maguire. What's not to like?
I'm going to put it. I think it's going to be A tier, and I'm going to complain about Doctor Strange being in the movie.
And that just sounds likely. Well,
I'm going to be like, Spider-Man should be for Spider-Man, guys. You have to make like Doctor Strange villains in it. God. No, I reckon I'm probably going to give it an S tier because they're going to hit me in that sweet nostalgia for Alfred Molina. And is it confirmed? Willem Dafoe, is he in it?
I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, but it's been strongly rumored. I feel like
the cackle.
I feel like this is the potentially the cluster that gets it right. I feel like we've had 2 attempts at getting everything thrown in the cooking pot and see what comes out. I feel like this is the time that a very nice ganache comes out of it.
A ganache, Spider-Man ganache. Is that how it's going to be? Sticky.
Spider. We're going to make it with some spider panache, and
it's time to stop, isn't it?
Yeah. Because the next word I could think of is gash, and I don't want to go anywhere near that. But anyway, thank you very much for letting us waffle about Spider-Man movies for the better part of an hour and a half.
You're really hungry, aren't you? You're talking about ganache and waffles.
I need my dinner. I'm a hungry Spider boy.
I'm gonna go back and rewatch. You're gonna be watching this and editing it, and you're just gonna be just latching on to every word, hearing us talk about octopus and all the various animal superheroes that like Spider-Man has. Like, but a lizard would be roasted up real good right now.
my cheekbones get slowly more defined as I lose weight during the hour and a half, sweating in this hot box of a recording studio. It's not a recording studio, it's just my bedroom. But thank you very much for watching, and thank you, Drew, for joining me on this very spiderific journey.
It's been my pleasure, Tom.
You anytime, pal. And if you enjoyed this, please do give us a subscribe. Drew has made many a good video essay on this about things ranging from big text on screen, all the way through to why American Gods Season 3 is not very good. So
hot take there.
I know, it's almost like no one else on earth had that opinion. But anyway, no, it's a good video. You should check it out, even if you've not watched American Gods. I haven't watched American Gods, and I still enjoyed that video. Give us a like and subscribe and all of that jazz. Visit our other channels, upsidedownshow.com, for everything you need to know. My name has been Tom. His name's been Drew, and we shall see you next time. Outros.
Bye.
Listen, everybody. Hello. Listen, everybody. Hello. Listen, everybody. Hello. Listen, everybody.